Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast. What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here today with good buddy Adam.
Yes, hello.
And today, well, if you can obviously tell what this is probably going to be about by the episode title, but I don't know if you knew this or not, but I don't know if I knew it and just wasn't aware or didn't pay attention or whatever, but Turkey has nuclear weapons. And it's not like they made them, but I'll explain that right now. So
wait, did that recently happen, or
no?
Has that just been
it's been since the Cold War?
Really?
And the reason for that, so Turkey is in possession of, now the official number is supposed to be classified, but through various other, sources that are public, the exact number that they have is 47. They're officially recognized to have between 0 and 50 is what the official statement is, but
so a non-zero number.
Yeah. So they have 47 is what the number is. So, and the reason why, and they have what they have, so just so people are clear, it's not nuclear missiles. They have B-61 gravity dropped nuclear bombs. And they are effectively referred to as the dial yield, which means it can go anywhere from 0.3 kilotons in strength to 400 kilotons. So based on the configuration of the warhead. And you can just it's kind of like, they call it dial yield, which you can basically just fucking turn the dial and pick how bad you want it to fucking be, I guess.
Okay.
And so they're on loan to us, or on loan from us, the United States, and we gave them to them back in the Cold War. And because Turkey's a member of NATO, and so they were a close proximity country, but not one that would be immediately invaded by the Russians or the Soviets back then. So they were deemed to be one that should carry these nuclear bombs. And so it's very fuzzy as to how it actually works. It's supposed to be where we have some people that are actually in charge of and in custody of these, so US military personnel, but it's not like we've got a shit ton of dudes over there, holding these things. So now that Turkey is sort of playing the fence here, it would be very easy for them to just go in and just be like, yeah, we're using these, go fuck yourself.
Well, now that makes was it the F-35s? Did they get F-35s from us? Yeah,
well, no, they haven't gotten them yet, but
they will.
They will. The Trump said that he would. Now
that makes sense, sort of. If you already have nuclear bombs, then it would make sense of why their arsenal or whatever their equipment that they got, it's like an easy assumption to make that, okay, if they get nuclear bombs, they can get other shit too.
Yeah. Well, they're also working on their own version of stealth fight, a 6th generation fighter or whatever that they're going to make. So what's interesting about the B-61 nuclear bomb is that it is able to be dropped from a fighter jet. You don't need a bomber to drop this thing. So you can drop it from an F-16. Which is a single seat, aircraft. It's not stealth or anything like that, but that's generally an air-to-air combat sort of it's a multi-role because it can carry a couple of bombs, but it can carry one fucking nuclear fucking bomb, and they already have the outfitting. It's claimed that it's not known if their F-16s were sent back or whatever, or they were decommissioned with the ability to carry those, because you have to have and needs a certain level of equipment to like, carry it or whatever. But I guarantee you that those motherfuckers still have those fucking things. And now this like Middle Eastern kind of NATO that's forming is starting to make sense, because you've got Pakistan, which has their own nuclear missile arsenal and bombs. And now you've got Turkey, who has on loan U.S. nuclear bombs. So Saudi Arabia making this deal with them, it all makes sense now, because they're worried that Iran, and there's also rumor that we have had on loan to them in this NATO style, the Saudis, like the nuclear bombs, this type of situation. Now, it's not confirmed or anything like that, but it would kind of make sense that the Saudis were trying to make this deal with us to let them have this nuclear power. They made this deal for all this nuclear power stuff because MBS, the guy who's the fucking sultan or whatever, I don't know what he's fucking called in Saudi Arabia. He's like the king. I don't know if he's the king proper or whatever, but he wants fucking nuclear weapons. Like, that's pretty clear. And the reason why is because they're afraid of Iran. And if Iran has nuclear weapons, the Saudis are a Sunni Muslim nation and the Iranians are a Shia Muslim nation. And so there goes the escalation ladder of, well, if Iran has the possibility of getting them, we need to make sure we get them.
So would they not even bother with having, because we're basically their security, right? So it doesn't really matter whether they have a militia or not, because if it's already just going to step Z with like nuclear warfare, then there's no real place for them to have like an army or anything. They have a standing army, the Saudi Arabians. And so, but that's not really much for defense. That's more for offense is what you have the standing armies for, because especially in the Middle East and there's a long history. Going back, not just in recent memory, but in the last thousands of years, the Middle East, they've always tried to conquer and overtake each other. And so this multipolarity Middle Eastern kind of thing is like kind of new in terms of how it's been in the last several thousand years, where usually there was like an empire or something that controlled the majority of the Middle East. One of the Middle Eastern nations was the empire, whether it be back in the World War I times, it was the fucking Ottomans, right? They controlled the entirety of the Middle East. And this is just, in recent history. Yeah.
And then post World War II, these other nations kind of became more independent. And then that's kind of how we got into this multipolar Middle Eastern situation now. But these Middle Eastern countries all banded together several times to try to fucking take out Israel. And that was back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Like, they all banded together to try to do this shit. And so now, my thought is that this new Middle Eastern NATO that's starting to form, you've got Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan. Those are the three signers.
The new world order of nuclear warfare, brother.
Yeah, basically. And you've got, they were trying to see if Egypt was going to come in, and this is actually fucking hilarious. Supposedly, they said they told the Egyptians something that was not true, that was false. And
about what?
I don't know what, no one knows what it was, but supposedly they wanted to test it was like an integrity check. And they said, hey, we're going to tell you this, and we're going to see what you do with it. And it got back to them that the Americans knew about whatever this thing was that they told them that was not true. And they're the only ones that they told this to. So now they have essentially axed Egypt from being in this deal, because originally they were going to include Egypt, but now they're like, hey,
you guys can't keep secrets.
Well, that, and you get if the Americans know, then the Israelis know. And so that's where this thing kind of now points towards another alliance of Middle Eastern nations that's going to be formed to go against the Western US/Israeli backed other, side that's going to be forming in the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia is not confident that we are going to back them up, which is why they've made this deal with Pakistan and Turkey. And
that makes sense.
Right. And so now and one of the things that has come out is supposedly, and this could be Israeli propaganda, but who the fuck knows? It's interesting that it's coming out, or that it's even being talked about, is that supposedly the deal is that Turkey and Pakistan have been going around and telling everybody, hey, listen, just make your little deals with Israel, sign these peace deals, but prepare for war. And let the Israelis get into like a false sense of security that everybody's on their side, and then that's when we're all going to fucking attack. So that could also, like I said, it could be Israeli propaganda, which it could very well be, but where this is looking like from just the stuff we know that's true, that seems like a plausible thing that they would say. Is there, because Turkey is fucking definitely against Israel. The Israelis have been saying for months, once we're done with Iran, Turkey is next. That's what they've been saying. And this is a vested interest of Turkey to be in some sort of alliance, because if they end up getting attacked by Israel, they're not going to have to go fight them alone. And this is where shit gets real fucking muddy, because Turkey being a NATO ally, if they are attacked by Israel and they initiate Article 5 of NATO, which means everybody's got to jump in, I don't think everyone else is going to jump in. And then that throws NATO out the door. Because if you won't do it for this, then you ain't going to do it for nothing. So and the Israelis are heavily in, obviously, our government, all the Western European governments. So there's no way that if Israel did end up attacking Turkey, that an Article 5 declaration would be acted upon. And then that throws NATO out the window.
I mean, on a tangential point, I mean, for them to try to dissolve the ICC, or, you know, both the U.S. and Israel to try to do away with that so they won't get war crimes.
I mean, they effectively have, because there's no like lead prosecutor, because they had him ousted, and the ICC is not going to vote on a new lead prosecutor until like sometime next year. And that's if they actually do it. They may just indefinitely put off the vote. And unless there's a lead prosecutor in charge, they cannot prosecute anything. So they have effectively, it can't operate now at this point.
Yeah, so I think you can look at that and think, well, if they're willing to manipulate that situation, then you would want to think that they could also do the same thing with NATO, with Turkey.
Yeah. That's exactly what's going to happen. I'm telling you, if Israel, I don't think this Iran situation is going to end soon, because as we're in right now, the Iranians, and this is related to the issue, because this is part of the reason why they're forming these alliances, is because they don't trust the Iranians to not just come in because I'm sure everybody thinks the Iranians are going to get nukes. And once they get nukes, now they get to kind of call the shots, because no one else has nukes. Well, Saudi Arabia has backup now with Turkey and Pakistan for nukes.
What a weird... That's so strange that, like, it's those three nations that have kind of come together.
Yeah, it's because they oppose Iran because of religious reasons, because they're the opposite end of the spectrum of the Muslim. And it's crazy, they're all the same goddamn religion. It's just the different sects. I mean, it would be like as if fucking California was a Catholic nation, and then, like, New Mexico and Arizona were also Catholic, and then fucking Nevada was like evangelical Christian, and then we formed a pact against Nevada, but we're all fucking Christian, right? So like that's where the shit gets fucking haywire and really makes you go like, you motherfuckers are literally fighting over the dumbest shit, and all it is which fucking descendant was the one of Muhammad, whether it was guy A or guy fucking B. That's the only fucking difference, really.
Yeah.
So the shit does not make sense. But that's just how, and this is people to understand Middle Eastern religious politics, that's how it works. And we're literally seeing it, play out right now. And this is where the Shia minorities in all these other countries, they're allied with Iran. The Houthis, they're the Shia minority they might even be the majority now in Yemen. The PMF, it's called the Popular Mobilization Force. That's the Shia Iraqi fucking version or whatever. They're a minority in the country. So they're fucking aligned with Iran, and like all these other little organizations, they're aligned with Iran because Iran is like the Shia headquarters or whatever. So the small proxies that are out there are doing damage. Like that's why I think that this is being taken very seriously between the Sunni Muslim alliances that are out there that are forming now, is because they're like, oh shit, the Iranians have all these different vast networks of alliances across all the countries. And if you could see what the Houthis have done to Saudi Arabia, I mean, they've crippled their shipping industry. They're still attacking ships. Just this yesterday or this morning, I don't remember which one exactly because the time fucking frames were weird with the time change and time travel and shit. But they literally blew up a fucking Saudi shipping crate, or a giant Saudi shipping vessel. And it was in the Bab el-Mandab, where they're telling them that, hey, you motherfuckers can't come through here. They shot it, they fucking hit it, and then they waited until a rescue boat came, and they fucking hit the rescue boat, and then hit the fucking ship again. So they've killed people. Like they're serious about this shit. So if Saudi Arabia really can't do shit to them, that's why they're getting into these alliance forming now, because when the shit all comes to a head, and this is where I go back to, this is like all pre-World War I. This is exactly kind of how World War I started, was you had all these little small regional alliances, and then the alliances started banding together to form bigger alliances to essentially offset the Ottoman Empire. So you have all these little smaller countries that then band together. That's kind of what we're having happen right now. There's all these small regional alliances happening, and they're going to start turning, once the war goes hot, it's going to, like the real war goes hot, it's going to turn into them aligning with bigger players, i.e. being BRICS, China and Russia, and the Western Alliance, which is the United
NATO.
States and quote unquote, potentially NATO. So that's where it's at right now.
It's still confusing.
It's very confusing, but again, this is to highlight the confusion. This is how this type of situation turns into, oh, some Archduke nobody gets fucking assassinated, and now it's World War fucking III or World War I. That's how that happened, and this is the infancy stage steps of that happening. And what's crazy is like, history doesn't repeat itself, quote unquote, but it sure does fucking rhyme. And we're seeing it it was 110 years ago that World War I basically, or 100 and just a little around 110 years ago when World War I started. And it's like, wow, 100 years later, we're going through basically the same bullshit, different reasons. And now everybody has nuclear weapons. So
do you think, like in World War II, it was so much more obvious that it was a cataclysmic war, right? Do you think now all countries have wised up and, like, let's say we're actually in World War III right now, but it's not being reported in the news in that way.
Yeah.
Like, look, it's more so like proxy wars, but the importance of these things are being downplayed so that panic isn't created. I mean, it has been in some ways because the whole Strait of Hormuz thing and oil prices, and then inflation being caused by the cost of oil because it affects damn near everything. But like, it's still being downplayed, but we're already in World War III because like back then it's like, oh, I don't know. I think I don't know if it's an intelligence thing or maybe they learned from the past. It's like, oh man, maybe we shouldn't really outright say that we have an outright enemy like Hitler. This is more reserved than previous global affairs or global warfare, I guess.
I also think, I see what you're saying, but I also think that communication is a lot different than it was back then.
Yeah.
Back during World War I times, for the war to have even broken out, it took weeks, maybe, dare I say, months to get the news to travel all the way around the world that this was actually happening.
Yeah.
And before average Joe Schmo in Paducah, Kentucky knew that World War I was going on, it was probably months after it actually initially happened. Whereas now, anyone can pick up a fucking phone and you can go on Twitter and you can see it happen. You could watch the first missiles drop live. So I think that now they're very cognizant of, well, like you said, they don't want to cause any panic. They don't need to worry about word getting out because word's going to get out immediately. They need to worry about the framing. So this is why it's not being framed as World War III.
That's probably a better way to say it.
Yeah, because the media is now, with the instant reporting things, they're just framing and they're either just outright lying or they're framing it in a way that makes it seem not as bad. And it's the same shit that they're doing like here with the oil prices and stuff. The oil market, it's like the market manipulation. You can do all these things to manipulate everything, to make everything look on the surface like it's fine. But if you were to go, 2 feet below the water, you could see the chaos that's fucking happening and the imminent doom that is fucking impending, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So, but that's where it's at from like that perspective is, I do believe that we will probably be looked back upon in history as the initial 2022 invasion of Ukraine by the Russians. That was probably going to be shown as the beginning of World War III. That's the true beginning, because since then, everything else has just progressively followed.
Yeah, I mean, like, to have murdered the Ayatollah, like that is the equivalent of like Archduke Franz Ferdinand being...
Oh, it's much worse than Archduke Franz Ferdinand being assassinated.
Yeah.
I don't think that will be shown. That's going to be shown as just another thing that's World War III type material, but I don't know what the actual thing is that's going to kick off to say this is when the global conflict happened. Because right now we're in a bunch of small regional conflicts. Well, maybe not small, but there are a bunch of regional conflicts. The Chinese are supposedly mulling right now their not invasion, but their blockade of Taiwan. They're not going to invade Taiwan. They're going to blockade it. And when they blockade, and right now our Navy has been shown to be pretty weak. If they're going to do it, now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Sometime soon, and they had talked about by 2028, that was their plan. I think the Trump administration has accelerated a lot of everybody's plans in terms of like their doomsday scenario because of this Strait of Hormuz situation and because of launching this needless war against Iran. But I think that the Chinese are like, cool, Taiwan would last maybe 3 weeks under a full legitimate blockade. And China has the naval vessels to do it. They have the number of vessels to do it easily. We don't have the number of vessels to effectively blockade the Strait of Hormuz correctly. But China has the number of vessels to do that. And it's right there. It's right next door. So they could easily do it. And like I said, Taiwan would maybe last 3 weeks because Taiwan is an island nation. They don't really grow their own food. They're not able to have their own communications because once you get cut off from everybody, how are you going to fucking do it? Yeah, sure, maybe Starlink can come in and save the day, but who knows what's going to happen with that. But food, yeah, they got maybe 3 weeks and then that's it. Then they're going to be starving. And then you capitulate, you give up. Like you have to. Like there's just no option. You just have to. And then the Chinese come in and just take over.
That thing turning into whatever it might be, that seems like it could be it's like grasping the future with that country because, I mean, I understand that semiconductors are used for everything technological. So like for them to have that, because the whole process of making semiconductors, it's like super strenuous and all that shit. But if warfare changes to artificial intelligence and stuff, or just anything that is used with computers, if you control that, that is the future. That is literally the future.
Yeah, AI is the future as it's going now. And whoever controls that will control... That's going to be the new global commodity, not oil, not whatever. It's going to be the microchip processors, because you can't innovate and create better AI if you don't have those fucking graphics cards or whatever. And look, that's why like we can't go buy a fucking gaming PC for a reasonable price right now, is because graphic processors and hard drives are like 4 or 5 times the price of what it actually should be.
Yeah.
Because they're buying up all that shit. And it goes obsolete in 6 months, you know, and they keep having to upgrade it. If you fuck that up, not if you fuck it up, but if you take that, that's it, it's over. And that's the reason why they're doing it. Some people are saying now that the Chinese AI models are better in some ways than what we have. And that's the new global future of warfare, is fucking AI, robotics, that kind of bullshit. Because if you don't got to send people in, you can just send robots that are controlled by AI. But that's also how you get Terminator. So, you know, I don't know if that's such a good idea, but that's where it's headed. So anyways, I'm trying to think. I think that was pretty much everything that I covered that I wanted to talk about. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No.
All right. Well, anyways, stay on the up and up. All right. Just keep your eyes peeled for shit to go down, because it's coming soon. It's hard to predict when, but the one thing I will say in closing, the original MOU that we signed, the 60 days, ends on August 17th. So some of the theory that I've developed is that we have really kind of been silent on fucking with Iran, because once the MOU is officially dead, then that's it. We can go full bore. Even though the Iranians have said it's dead and we violated it, they violated it, everybody fucking violates it. But on a timetable, it was a 60-day deal to end, you know, to do more talks. And as of right now, on the 12th of August, there ain't no fucking talks going. It's basically dead. There's been no progress made on getting any kind of talks going forward. So who knows? There could be a last minute 11th hour fucking deal that happens, but I think that's what they're waiting for, is that August 17th to just fucking go, cool, now we can just go ham. Because now there's nothing anyone could say about, oh yeah, well, what about the MOU? Nah, the MOU is now officially over. It was only good for 60 days anyway. So anyways, I
do have something, but I don't know if it's relevant for this podcast. So I'll probably just mention it afterwards, and then see if we do something afterwards.
All right. Well, anyways, I guess that'll be the end of this episode, and then we'll catch you guys on the next one. Was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.